So the video game market is, as far as home consoles, crashed. And a lot of people were sort of like my family, bought a Commodore 64. A lot of people were looking at having a computer instead of a gaming console, because personal computers kind of just started becoming a thing. And people were saying, well, you can do your accounting on it. You can do your typing on it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and you can play video games.
Yeah, multi-use.
Yeah, so why, for the same price, well, probably just a little bit more, you could get a computer and do all of these things, so why buy a console?
Right.
So then in Japan, that's not what's happening. First of all, Nintendo decides to come out with their first game system. And I think their first game system here, I had notes on this. Their first game system came out in '83. And they called it the Famicom. So, which was actually a little bit of a play on the family computer.
Okay.
So this is what it looked like.
Oh, man, that's weird looking.
Yeah, and for Asian markets, that was their Nintendo when they were a kid.
Man, how long are the cords for the handles? Because it looks like you got to sit right next to the thing.
Yeah, you know what? They're not that long. I want to say they're like maybe 4 feet or something.
Ooh, yeah.
And the other thing is you're right. They don't detach. And there were tons of add-ons for this later on. They even had like a disc-based system, so you could put like floppy disks in there and things. Now this was in the Asian markets, but not available in the United States. They actually tried to sell it in the United States, and they started talking to a bunch of distributors in the United States, saying, "Hey, look, we've got this system, and it's advanced for a home system." I mean, they had like basically game quality was like, remember the original Super Mario Brothers?
Yeah.
And when you're going from like a game system that we just looked at a minute ago, like the ET for the Atari, it was a huge leap forward. And Nintendo thought, we have a superior product. People love it. Why not sell it in the United States?
Right.
And they were like, no, nobody likes video games, home video games anymore. They don't trust them. They're terrible. The market's flooded. You play games like in an arcade, and then you buy the home version, and the home version just looks like crap. Like, why would we want to get in on that?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until 5 years later, or not 5 years later, 2 years later, where they actually were able to deploy or start selling the Nintendo in the United States. And this is what you remember, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's actually just the Famicom, which then was kind of retooled because they thought that the other look wouldn't go over here.
Oh, yeah.
And
I like this look better.
Yeah, and they said, they're going to go for a more like, I don't know, like a boxy look. But originally they went to CES, and everyone was kind of getting into computers. And so then they were like, well, maybe a game system wouldn't work. And originally they said, well, we know we have to retool the Nintendo to sell in the United States. So maybe we'll just make it a full-blown computer.
Oh, my goodness.
And so originally this is what the Nintendo was going to look like for the United States.
I'm glad it didn't.
Yeah. And then they showed this off, and they showed off their games. And people were like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of good, but I don't know.
Yeah, what's that piece? Or yeah, what's that?
It's the original Zapper. So the original one came with a joystick, 2 game pads, and a Zapper.
Oh.
And I think this is a tape deck.
Okay, yeah.
But that never actually turned into anything.
Okay.
and we actually ended up with what we know as the Nintendo now.
Yeah, a lot of memories looking at this picture.
Yeah. But it's just weird because when nobody trusted video games, right? Or nobody trusted home video games. The market crashed. It was oversaturated, and most people thought it was junk.
Mm-hmm.
They would play video games in an arcade. They would think this is worth it. But most people couldn't afford a full-on arcade at home.
Yeah.
And when the Nintendo first came out with the Famicom and tried to sell it here, we said no. We basically told them that that they were crazy and that they would never be able to sell it here.
Mm-hmm.
Then they finally got their foot in the door 2 years later, and it blew up and was like the biggest thing ever.
Yeah. If anything, I feel like maybe that reset button should be off of there because that created so many problems and tears and heartache.
You accidentally hit the reset button?
Yeah, I've done that plenty of times. Or somebody who, if you're on the console for too long and somebody wants to watch TV or they want to play a game and they would hit that reset button. Oh, so much heartache.
Oh,